Welcome, ghouls, demons, and fellow weird ones, and let's drink some moon juice. So, today I wanted to do the story time about my occupational therapy assistant career. I know I talked about it a little bit, but what is the whole cycle closure of this experience? At my 9 years in the field, have like more than officially decided to sever ties with it in every way that I possibly can. So, to go back to the beginning, which is back in high school, my senior year, I really struggled with what it was that I was going to go to college for, because I knew I had to go to college. I had to be successful. I couldn't be a worthless woman. There was a lot of pressure from my mom to go to college right outside of high school, get a career, never depend on a man, all of these other things in my life. And I knew what I wanted to do for a very long time. I talked about in my writing story time video that I've been writing since I was 9. I've had a passion for it since my childhood. And it was something I always wanted to do, always told it's hard to be successful, you'll be a starving artist, like all of these different thoughts that kind of came in, and it broke my spirit in a lot of ways. That there wasn't an encouraging voice. It wasn't like, try it, see what happens, like it is a tough road, you may not succeed, like it's really competitive, but keep going. You never know unless you try. I didn't really feel like I had that in my upbringing when it came to certain things. I had that in other ways, but of course it was always what my family wanted up for me, not what I wanted for myself. It seemed like when it was something I wanted for myself, it was discouraged in so many ways. And that has been a huge reflection of the time I spent in my OT career, because it was specialized with pediatrics and inner child healing, child development, just human development, not just child specifically, but human development, and what we need throughout the whole spectrum of our lives, and all of those things. So through my work in my career, there was a lot of inner work that it was mirroring within myself that led to this whole journey of my 20s, which is through my Saturn return, which is connecting me to, I guess, what it is that I was born to do, and that disciplinary side of Saturn, and like, what do you want? How bad do you want it? And so it was interesting to me how I was willing to do awful things. Like I was willing to suffer, and I was really willing to prove that I wanted something that I didn't want, like, at all. And then when it came down to me doing something I really wanted to do, that was really hard. It was hard to suffer in that way. It was easy to suffer in a misaligned way. It's really difficult to suffer in an aligned way. And it could also be because of the extra time and the more brutal lessons that come from Saturn and the Saturn return aspect of it all, but also just the healing that I had to do to lose my desire and my need to control everything because of all the trauma and stuff that I went through. So back in high school, senior year, lots of pressure. I had been dealing with a lot up until that point, that I kind of couldn't believe I was a senior in high school. I was graduating, and none of the goals that I had set for myself were met. In fact, I lowered my goals. I lowered my standards a lot. I kind of just accepted mediocrity. I settled a lot. Not for lack of trying. Like I said, my spirit was broken in so many different ways, and I kind of talked about that in my spiritual background podcast. There was just a lot going on, and it just didn't seem like my ambitions mattered to anybody or anything, and I was always on the back burner. And so every decision that I made, especially starting back in my senior year of high school, was what is good enough just to get me by? What can I do to survive? What stepping stone do I need to get to my dream that is so fucking far out of reach? And I kind of, honestly, I even lost sight of what that dream was in certain ways. I knew I wanted to be a writer. That's never left me, but I was like, well, what I wanted to write, how I wanted to write, the vision I had for my life was gone. And I was like, well, if I want to be a writer, then I can't have the vision of my life the way that I want it to be. It's going to be this way. And it was all of these imperfect, victimized tropes. Like there's so many different stories that I was convinced of, and I told myself that I repeated to myself until I believed it. And this all tied into just I couldn't figure out what the fuck I wanted to do with myself, and killing myself was not an option as much as I wanted to. That was in the back of my mind. It's like, well, if I just end it all right over. And I really fought the suicidalism, which I relate to, like in the Dead Poets Society. People make fun of that movie often. It's like, oh, you couldn't be in a play, so you're gonna kill yourself. Oh, you can't be a writer, so you're gonna kill yourself. I can't live my life, so why live at all? And I was really struggling with that. I don't think people knew the weight of what I was dealing with back then. It was just like, well, Sarah, you're really smart. You were an A honor roll. Now you're an AB honor roll. Like, you're in all these advanced classes. And I really wanted to climb these mountains. And it's not fair to say that I gave up halfway up the mountain and just like walked back down. I was injured on the mountain and had to be brought back down. I was kicked off the mountain by force. Like, there was so many times I tried to climb this mountain of my life I don't know if I was just climbing the wrong mountain. I don't know if there were just booby traps along the mountain. It was a really difficult time for me assessing. I didn't feel prepared, and I feel like time flew by, and I felt like I was distracted by too many other things, and I didn't get to focus on what I wanted to focus on. And it really stirred up a lot of anger, just like, which manifested literally just before I started recording this, like with my dogs. That's why Valus isn't laying with me right now. I got upset with him, and now he's upset, and I feel devastated about it because I let my anger get the best of me in ways that I don't want to. But it's, again, because my needs were always pushed to the back burner. And I know they're my dogs. They're your dogs. You sign up for them to be priority. I shouldn't have gotten mad at it. And this is how sensitive I am to my own behaviors and just things in my life. Why did I have to get mad at my sweet boy just because he was excited because mom's working from home? I no longer have this OT career. I no longer am doing these things, and since we've gotten him, he's been used to me being home on and off, and he's used to our time together. But I'm really trying to create this thing. There's a lot of time and energy I can't give them, and then we're in the apartment, so he can't be distracted with going outside where he used to be able to run in the fields and play with the chickens. And so I'm putting him through all this change. I'm going through all this change, and I just want it to work. But the whole point of me, just every time I go to focus on myself, being redirected to someone or something else's needs, at this Gemini full moon, it just really fucking set me off. And so I feel terrible. I'm gonna make it up to him, but I just wanted to record my video that I scheduled and I planned, and I did all this stuff to do. And all he had to do was just fucking wait. Just let me get it done, and then I will tend to you. It wasn't an emergency. Like, he's acting like it's this emergency. He's just getting so excited, and we go outside, and he's just wasting my time. And the problem is, it's like, well, can't you just shift it? People ask me that all the time. Well, what is the harm in just taking him outside, enjoying your time outside, and then coming back to this? Well, the whole point and why that's a problem is because I set this up. I put in so much effort to focus on myself. And every time I do, something or someone is pulling me away from myself to focus on them. And that's how my whole life has felt in so many different ways. And so that goes back to like my OT career is I'm having this existential crisis. Not even a quarter life crisis. I was fucking 17, 18 years old, and it was, well, if you don't go to college, then you have to move out and get a job. But if you live here, then you still have to get a job and you have to pay. Like, it was just all of these, like, I'm graduating, I'm 18, and I'm getting fucking kicked out of the nest. I have a whole other set of philosophies and belief systems around parents, and I don't think that kicking kids out as soon as they graduate high school and turn 18 is a healthy thing. I don't think I think you need to pressure, like motivate, lightly spark some interest in your child. You, of course, you want them to be ambitious and you want them to flourish in all of these things. But especially in America, I don't know if it's done in other countries, but here, this idea that, well, you're 18, you graduate high school, you go to college or you get a job. And you're just immediately like, there is no space to figure out what you want to do. Because the time you were supposed to be spending figuring out what you wanted to do, they're cramming you, or at least I was crammed. I was crammed with all of these high level courses to make something of myself just to not be able to afford to get into a high end college. So it's like, what was the point of torturing myself with all of these classes that I don't use? The few classes that I do use are my advanced English classes and my statistics courses. Um, and my history courses. Like, there's things that I utilize that I'm glad that I was taught, but like to the level of that they cram it. It just, a lot of it I lost because the system doesn't actually want you to learn anything. It just wants you to cram things to temporarily prove yourself to get to the next level, and then it's gone. And it's a fucked up system. And so I really didn't feel like I just felt like I was constantly just like spinning in a fucking whirlpool, just the waves tumbling me over and over and over again, not being able to get my legs underneath me, a sense of grounding of myself at all. Because every time I started to stand on my own legs, something else just washed me away to focus on something else. And a lot of it was just surviving. A lot of it was treading water and keeping myself from drowning. And so there's a lot of deep emotions that were tied into the decision for OT, which is a huge reason why I really do feel like I had to leave it. Why I have to keep it gone and close that chapter, put it in a vault, while I also appreciate everything that it taught me. So after all this pressure, I talked to my friend Katie. She's a Cancer, so I thought that was, I think that's significant for a variety of reasons. As she was going into OT, she's like, I just think you would really like it. And so I had to figure some stuff out. I didn't know what OT was. She taught me about it. I learned about the philosophy about OT teaching people to be the highest level of independent that they can be despite their circumstances and disabilities. So philosophically, it really sparked something within me. And then I had to do some observation hours, and I was at a nursing home, and I was like, I lied. I was like, like, oh, like, yeah, like, this is great. Nursing homes are awful. Nursing homes are absolutely awful, and it didn't matter how I tried to spin it. It didn't matter how much I tried to lie to myself about what it could be. I can romanticize anything, and I really romanticized that shadowing. To me, it was just easy. I didn't think I had to think about anything. It was like, I have the credits, I have the this, I have the that, I can get into the program, I can graduate in 2.5 years, 3 years, because of how semesters work. I can graduate in 3 years, and I can just get the fuck out of here, and I can be free. So to me, it was just like, okay, these are my stepping stones to get the fuck out of here. And my OT schooling, everyone, my instructors, everyone was like, why don't you just drop out and go to law school? Because I argued, well, not just everything, but just the point of the way they ask the test questions. I'm like, if I'm supposed to be being a therapist and implementing all of these things, why are you having me do it this way? And it's like, well, research and studies and years of therapeutic intervention, which you learn, and it's like, okay, but can we evolve? What about my idea is not a bad idea. It's like, it's not a bad idea. And in fact, Sarah, it's a really good idea. And when you are a therapist, you can do that. But in school, you got to follow the book. And I noticed so many issues with like the healthcare system and just how they even train the healthcare workers. And that's why you have so many people who go into it. Similar reasons for me. They're scared out of their mind. They don't know what to do. It's good money. It's their stepping stones to a secure survival life. That's a huch problem. We shouldn't have people like that in healthcare. As good of a healthcare worker, which I'll get into. I have my own issues of why I don't think I was a good fit for healthcare, and why people like me shouldn't be in healthcare. I feel like there was a lot of harm that I did not being in alignment, despite the good that I really tried to do. So in school, everyone's telling me to go to law school. Everyone's telling me to do something else because I disrupted everybody. I questioned my instructors with their test questions. I questioned what they were teaching me. I questioned fucking everything. It really made a lot of people uncomfortable. There were a lot of arguments. I went toe-to-toe with instructor Michael about his idea that you didn't deserve to be in the program. He told people, because he changed the schedule on us. The schedule was fucked up as our summer courses, and we did a semester's worth of work in 3 weeks. It was fucked up. It was super fucked up. But he changed the assignments and was like, listen, I'm working fucking 5 jobs to get myself through this program. Okay, like my schedule is so fucking tight right now that these last minute minor changes with assignments and it can't do it. And then he made a statement along the lines that you didn't deserve to be in the program if you couldn't dedicate 100% of yourself to the program. And I was like, that's a place of privilege. I can't afford this program. And it's like, well, why don't you get student loans? Which that's a whole fucking trap that a lot of people get caught into. And I wasn't falling for it for a variety of reasons. I fell for a different kind of debt. Because we all fall into debt traps, especially in America. I think they inevitably set it up for people. There's such a lack of education on how it all works. But so I'm fighting with my instructors. I'm, again, killing myself just to escape. I just wanted to escape my life in New Mexico with my family. I wanted freedom to be myself. I wanted to pursue what I wanted to pursue. And if I wasn't going to get help from my family to do what I wanted to do, I was going to help myself. And the whole point of my OT career, which I've said this 1,000 times, was to pursue my writing career. This is before candles, this was before anything. I always knew I wanted to be a writer. And I think my senior year, when Riley and I wrote that song together, I felt like a glimmer of hope. There's a spark of hope for sure that was snuffed out, taken away from me, for a variety of reasons. Things that were going on with my family. I think the breakup with Riley, I took almost too seriously for what it was, but considering where I was at in my life, that bled into the insecurity and the instability and the hopelessness with becoming a writer and a creative. Because it's not just about being a writer or a creative, it's an artist. I've always been a creative person, loved all of these different aspects, and I just wanted to spend my time doing that. Outside of school, I was coloring and drawing and doing some kind of art project. I was always doing some kind of art project until school and family became too much. And when school and family became too much, I was working and going to school or dissociating, and severely depressed. So all of that, which if you don't deal with it, it doesn't go away. It never goes away till you deal with it. So I'm just escaping, which this is very Pisces Saturn. This is very Pisces energy. I have a few Pisces placements, but in direction to the Saturn, it's a Pisces Saturn in the 10th house. So that's why it also connects to my career, because it's 10th house energy as well. So I am like, well, OT allows me to be creative in an appropriate way, because OT is known as the creative field. So I was like, okay, well, I can help people. I want to help people. I can be creative. I can make good money. I can be independent. Like, it was checking all of my superficial boxes. It still wasn't fulfilling. It was good enough. And at least I didn't have to, I don't know, sometimes I think about it and maybe I should have just moved out and gotten a regular job, because I'm kind of at that point now. And I was already working all of those jobs. Like, I could have worked all of those jobs and poured into my writing career, but I didn't, because I had to have the college degree that everyone fucking swears that you need, which Sagittarius full moon of 23, I burned my degree. I burned the physical copies of everything I have. They can't take it away from me just because I don't have a physical copy of it. And even if the record goes away forever, I kind of don't care. That's how fed up with this career I became. Excuse me. Through all of the different things that I experience in healthcare, generally, for anybody who's in healthcare, these are problems that I witness, but then also the misalignment within myself. So I'm misaligned, the culture, the system, the society, everything is fucking fucked up. Everything's misaligned. And so I graduate, finally, longest fucking 3 years of my life. And now it's time for me to move, which is, I talked about this, which is where I kind of scapegoated Christopher and really attached to that relationship probably a lot more than I ever should have. On top of his lies and manipulation and painting this picture of something that I thought was going to be amazing, I thought I had finally done the work and I was going to get my happily ever after. I was going to move. I was going to be with this artistic musician guy that was everything I wanted to be, and like he was inspiring so much, which makes sense. So he's a Taurus, and he's a triple Taurus, and I am a Leo moon in the second house, so that Tauresian energy made a lot of sense, especially in the artistic field. So you can see these connections in my birth chart and all these different things, and I was like, yeah, this is it, and was not it. So I moved to Michigan, and I start working in a nursing home, and it's good money. It's an hour commute. I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. I'm fucking miserable. But I love the people I worked with. Everyone, it was Ridgecrest at the time. Everyone who was part of Paragon Rehab at Ridgecrest, you guys know. If you know, you know. Justice, Jordan, Michelle, Eric, Heather, and why is her name? I can picture her face. Why is her name blanking? Everyone. Oh my gosh, the speech therapists, don't hate me if you ever watch this. Please don't. I have no idea why names are blanking on me right now, but everyone. Maybe because you don't want your name on here, which is totally fine. KB, like all of everybody. I loved that little group, and then I just couldn't do the drive anymore. It was a long commute because I was trying to be in between where Christopher lived and then like the job that I got to be in Michigan, and I'm just again spreading myself too fucking thin. And then I'm picking up all these PRN hours because I'm trying to get all this money. I'm trying to save money. I'm trying to help Christopher with money. I'm trying to do all of these things again to build myself up to a certain level to pursue what I wanted to pursue. And writing kind of just became like a hobby. I sporadically would write a poem, but the main focus was to just start living my life and having fun. I wanted to start going to restaurants. I want to start traveling. I just wanted to live and kind of take a break. I didn't want to focus on any other career ambitions, because I had originally planned on getting my master's and doing all this stuff because of all the people I could help and all the things. And then I realized how much money it was going to be, how much work it was going to take. And I was like, I already killed myself once, twice, 3 times to do this. I'm not going to continue to kill myself just if this is all it is, especially when I was working as a CODA, certified occupational therapy assistant. And so when I was the assistant, not the full OT, but the OT assistant, and I'm watching what OTs do. I'm like, it is not worth going to all of this debt, doing all this work just to be here. Not worth it. So I gave it up because it was not worth climbing that mountain in any way, shape, or form. Some people it's worth the mountain climb. It was not worth it for me at all. And so I just kept working as a coda, I was making good money. And Christopher and I broke up, insane a little bit. And through also, because I was having all these heart problems, because I went from one nursing home to a different nursing home that was just closer, but still nursing home vibe, and like the pressure, 92, 94%, like anywhere from 90 to 94% productive, which means that 94% of your 8-hour day is billable to insurance. They don't want to pay you. So you get like 20 minutes to document, go to the bathroom, walk to, like, there's no way. On paper, insurance companies, and it might look fucking good. It's not. It's greedy. It's grimy. It's gross. Everything about it is fucking disgusting. And they burn people out, and they want to know why nursing homes suck. People want to know why the elders are not being taken care of in these facilities, because companies are greedy and they burn people the fuck out. It is absolutely disgusting. I could go on and on and on about what I experienced in the nursing home. And so then I started having heart problems. Christopher and I broke up. Life is miserable. I'm really, really fucking stressed. And heart problems. I quit my job, or go down. I don't quit my job. I go down from full-time to PRN, which you pick up hours as needed, which that was a controversy. They're like, because I was still going to that same like nursing home. I went to different nursing homes, but it's with the same company. Like, did you just not like us? Like, you went from being full-time, and it seems like now you're working more. And I was like, no, I have the flexibility. When I need time off, I can take time off as a PRN as needed worker. When I'm full-time, I'm telling you guys I need this time off, and you're not giving it to me. And I have never agreed with that. Ever. And then when I was like living it, I was really fighting it, where I was like, I have valid reasons to need time off, and you're telling me I can't. You're telling me that I have to spend this money to go to the doctor to get a doctor's note just so you know that I'm sick, when you can't just say, hey, I'm sick. I can't come into work today. No, I don't need to have the flu to be not well enough to go to work. Here's the thing, I would go to work, and then I would have to like sneak off to the bathroom to hyperventilate because I'm having a fucking panic attack. Like, the illnesses that I was dealing with when I would call off wasn't always this like physical germ-based illness. I was having severe depression and severe anxiety, which were symptoms of PTSD that I was later informed about. And so I just couldn't do it. So I was like, well, at least PRN, there's less pressure. I just go in, I do my job, and I don't have to care as much, was kind of like the point in that. Because PRN, you can float under the radar pretty smoothly, and they don't care. And if they do care, they just don't call you back to that building. And which happened to me a few times, and I just couldn't care. I had to give myself the grace to kind of be a piece of shit at certain moments in my career because of just how heavy everything was weighing down on me. To manage and operate by myself. Even though I had family I was still talking to, I had friends, but no one seemed to get it or understand or support me in a way that relieved any pain that I was going through. And so then from there, I found this job with kids, expert care, and it started off slow, like part-time, and I was doing PRN and kind of jumping all over the place. But then I found out I could open myself up to a full-time schedule with expert care, make really good money, and not have to juggle so many different jobs and like schedule. And there was still the flexibility because it was paid per visit. And so, if I didn't see the kid, I didn't get paid. But of course, like, you didn't want to burn the bridge. So I've done that before. This is a key point for when I talk about my time at Talk to Me here in Nashville. Is I had already managed my own schedule, done appointments, but it was home care. So it was a little bit different. But I had that flexibility. I took time off whenever I needed it, and it was and I made good money, and it was good enough. I was working with kids. I loved working with the kids. But from there, I learned a lot about how to treat children Not just like how I wished I was treated as a child, but I went from doing the standard therapeutic models, and then it's like I feel like I'm traumatizing these kids. I feel like I'm torturing them. Like we're not getting anything done. Why am I even here? And then I started to realize how many kids were misdiagnosed with things for a variety of reasons. Some of it was for like social security, some of it was just for services. Like there was a lot of different reasons. Or some kids were just diagnosed because bad parents didn't want to be parents, and so their kid was a dickhead. And then they were like, oh, something's wrong with my child. No, your child would have been fine if you were a parent. If you actually were a fucking parent to your fucking child, your kid would be fine and they wouldn't have these diagnoses. If you weren't having children in poor environments with like just instability everywhere, like I don't understand why people think that they can just have children. Like it's my right to have kids. And then you bring children into the most toxic environment possible, whether it's financial, like physical, like their basic needs, or just even emotionally. A lot of my kids had emotional problems because people don't know how to be emotionally intelligent or emotionally raise children. Like that's a new thing that we're seeing in like the generation. I witnessed it. I witnessed boomers, Gen X, millennials, and how they raise kids and the problems that these kids were having. It is because a lot of it was directly correlated to parents. And then you have to give the parents a lot of grace because, well, that's how they were raised. This is how society tells them. So then you realize that the problem is systemic and it is huge. And the best thing that you can do is be super empathetic and super sensitive to the individual and their experience. And then I had a much more relaxed child-led approach. And I was accused of just hanging out with the kid. No, I was thinking of all the different ways that I could help them. But here's the thing. What I was doing was what a parent should be doing, is that you allow your kid their autonomy and then you give them little, like, boundaries here and there, and you guide them through their independence, through their development. And so now I wasn't like forcing these harsh, rigid, structured assignments for kids who could barely tolerate 2 seconds of attention. Like it was a slow process. It was a lot slower process than healthcare allowed, insurance allowed. Everyone wants progress, progress, progress. So then you get like hand over hand and you get ABA therapy, which is just Pavlovian dog training for children. And it's all a fucking nightmare. It's all a fucking nightmare. And I was getting really, really angry. I was angry for the children. I was angry for how little I could help them. And what could I do for society? I really just wanted to fix all of the problems that I was seeing, but it felt much larger than me. And so I kind of was like, well, if I can help the individual, then that's good enough. Kind of turns out that it wasn't good enough, but here, hold on. Sorry. Okay. Excuse me. So I'm frustrated with everything. 2020 hits, COVID shuts down, which caused a lot more anger. Everyone fucking knows what a shit show that all was. Especially here in almost 2026. I think by the time this is posted, it might actually be 2026. I don't know when this will be scheduled. But now 2025, 2026, we are seeing the developmental fucking problems that was forced upon children at a really young age. Like all the COVID babies, all the pandemic babies, like I was done and then we'll actually have fun outside, okay? And my career really started to tank. Parents didn't want me coming into the homes. If they did, to be frank about it, I did not want to fucking deal with everything that I had to deal with. Like I had some parents who basically wanted, I'm being a little dramatic, but they wanted me in a hazmat suit to go see their child. And I was like, this is so dystopian. Your autistic child is not going to benefit from me being in this hazmat suit, like at all. Like everything about it was just poor for their development. A lot of the progress I made, there's a few severe kids that I made huge leaps of progress with, fucking gone. All of it washed away from the 6 months that Michigan was shut down and I didn't see the kid. And then when I started to see the kids again, these like really awful boundaries for safety. And I'm not saying there isn't a need to protect vulnerable children. They had what the fuck am I trying to say? They had compromised immune systems. It was a complex thing. Everything was complex, and I understand that people just had to do the best they could with the information they were getting. But I wasn't going to infect the child. Like, if I hadn't drastically infected these children in the 4 years that I had been working, how long did I work with them? So 2018, 19. So this is 3 years at this point, or just about 3 years. If I hadn't affected them in a drastic way, like I'm a healthy person. I understand like making sure to do certain things. Maybe like not risking if I have like everyone would risk going to work, especially in America. If you had like just a little sniffles, like you weren't really that sick, but you weren't 100%. So it's like, well, if I'm not 100%, then I'm not going to go to work. Like I understand those shifts. There were definitely like necessary like shifts that we needed to make in our culture as far as like our work culture when it came to health and wellness. And I think that really showed people how we're burning ourselves out. People got a taste of what it was like to actually slow down, to actually take care of themselves, to give a fuck about themselves. And I was one of those people. I was like, wow, I'm actually able to sit and meditate. I'm actually able to implement all of these practices and not be going 50,000 miles an hour. Like it was an interesting calibration. And so, all of that happens. I meet my husband. I didn't really, I was going to work. When I say I didn't have to work, my husband has always wanted and held an expectation of the partner in his life being an ambitious woman. It is not like he has said it in very distasteful ways, because he thinks he's funny, that little bitch ass Capricorn. But generally speaking, he didn't care if I worked or how much I worked or any of the above. He just wanted me to have goals for myself. And when my career was kind of falling apart because of all these COVID things, because of all of the things that I was dealing with, I had really started my magical practice. I was becoming an actual practitioner, not just a student. I was actually practicing the philosophy and psychological principles, all the things that I had learned, which part of it was through my OT school. There's a lot of psychology and sociology that was attached to that schooling. And then the continuing education courses, the more that I learned and developed my practice with children, the more that I learned, and then I'm implementing it for myself because I kind of realized like I'm going off the rails here. I need to heal. Everyone told me to heal and find God. So I started by actually practicing what I preached to everyone around me. Because again, it was kind of this awareness to me that I can care about myself. I can take care of myself. I don't always have to take care of everyone else. I don't have to put my needs on the back burner. And my husband really showed me that because my husband, his needs are for himself. His needs are first. But he also has tendencies of putting his needs on the back burner for other people, especially when he cares about you or believes in you. But he's 10 years older than me. So he learned a lot of the lessons that I learned earlier. And so he was like sharing that wisdom with me. Like, yes, your needs are important. Yes, you have a voice. Yes, you have a say, but also there's a collaboration. And like, that's one thing our partnership has really taught me is how to be strong individuals and collaborate, not compromise, collaborate. And that's a huge difference because I was always in this compromising state, and that mirrored in my career. It mirrored everywhere. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I want to collaborate, co-create my life with the world, I need to quit compromising myself and making myself smaller and cutting this piece off of me to fit in this societal box of expectation of who Sarah should be, of who a woman should be, of who a wife should be, of who a mother should be, of who a friend should be, of all of these conditions that just weighed down on me until I was fucking flatter than a pancake. Like I was squished. I was destroyed. And so, what's that? Hazel? Okay. Heard a weird noise. Hope it's not my cat throwing up. So, anyway, through all of that, I stuck with the kids for a little bit, but then that wasn't going anywhere. I got this opportunity to go back to Jackson with justice, and it was PRN, or it was full time. It was covering full time hours for someone going on maternity leave. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, this will be great. I'm going to use this. And I just started my candle business. So I was like, I can do this and my candles are going to take off and I'll be fine. Like, well, we weren't married at the time, but Chad has a good job. Like, I'm secure. As long as I make this, as long as I do these things, I will be good. And then I can focus here. And I can keep growing and keep expanding. And then as soon as I quit the kid job and do that, then the nursing home job fell apart. And I was just like, I'm just not meant to be an OT anymore. I really need to focus my energy elsewhere. And I prioritized focusing my energy elsewhere, but it was a struggle. I started, because I was like, well, I want to be a writer. Well, then it kind of turned into this thing where, because I had hidden myself and my talents for so long, one, I didn't remember that I had them, which is kind of funny to admit. But then, like, other people didn't really know that I had them. Like, my husband, he paid for a couple, like, writing classes and, like, herbology, witchy courses. Like, when I was in the classes, I was like, I already know this stuff. I thought it was going to be teaching me things that I didn't know. But I also kind of, by sitting in those classes, I was aware that I'm not showing the world how much I know and, like, my depth and my capability, my talent, all of the above. So my husband thinks he's helping me start from the very beginning, when really I need to continue on from where I just kind of buried myself, you know. Essentially, I died at a certain point in the mountain, and I just, like, was being haunted. I was haunting the world around that, like, that little summit or whatever. However that's fucking worded, little stopping point on the mountain. Not quite the peak, but anyway. So all of that's going on, and I'm getting angrier. All of this ties into this anger of, why don't people know me? Why don't people see me? Why can't I express myself? Why can't I show myself to the world? Why am I being put on the back burner? Why am I being underestimated? Why? And it's kind of just, like, reflecting in, like, my career too. Because as the occupational therapy assistant, least responsibility, like, bottom of the totem pole as far as therapy is concerned. Depends on how you want to do a hierarchy of business. But generally speaking, in my field, in my scope of practice, I was at the bottom of the totem pole with the least amount of responsibility. And I needed that because I mentally could not handle much more responsibility outside of that. I had to really start clearing a lot of shit out. And that was what led me to go back to the kids, which they miss me very much. I was like, you know, there is, like, a rhythm here. And I was able to leverage it in my benefit. And then, you know, my husband lost his job, went through a few layoffs, and there's all this change. So then I had to kind of go back more full time in OT and be more of the breadwinner. It didn't bother me. Like, oh, my husband works really, really hard. He gifted me the time to figure myself out. I would be absolutely fucking dumb if I didn't give him that same courtesy and respect. But we're trying to balance it out, because when it started to fall apart for him, which I thought was stable, my stuff is, like, everything that I'm doing is still, like, in a transformation phase. And it kind of felt like I felt vulnerable because the stability for me to cocoon was no longer there. And then we're kind of cocooning at the same time. And that is stressful for a variety of reasons. And then we're not fully cocooning because we're both, like, worried about each other, making sure each other's safe through the process, and which is a beautiful thing. To kind of come to the conclusion of just how much my husband loves me and how much I love him, and how delicate we are in caring about each other, and how hard of a struggle it is for us to care about ourselves when we're so worried about the other person. But then that's where we had to heal a lot of the codependent mirroring within each other and continue to cultivate that interdependence, right? And that collaboration. So it was a lot of back and forth, which led me to Care First, which is a traumatic brain injury clinic. And I was like, oh, they're going to pay me good money. And here's the thing. I just, like, blew up myself when I was at that interview. I was wholeheartedly, Sarah, to be very honest, I took a microdose that day of the interview. I know for sure I did it, but I was that whole year, 22, I was on a microdosing cycle, psilocybin microdosing cycle. So it was 0.175 grams mixed with lion's mane and reishi, I believe. And sometimes it was in a tea, other times it was just like in a little pill form, but either way, that was like my practice. And so there really wasn't a whole lot of boundaries in who I was and what I had to offer. And I was really excited to implement all of these strategies to, again, change the system. I really felt like it was such a good opportunity for me to change the system and the culture. It was a smaller, newer corporation for traumatic brain injuries in Michigan, and they seemed excited about all of my ideas until I was there 3 months. And I've written about it 1,000 times. I've talked about it 1,000 times. I don't know if it's worth mentioning again, but quit/got fired after insights from an acid trip, and that is just summarizing it very poorly. There's a lot more that goes into all of that. But I through my time at Care First, I started to see a lot of corruption and the anger that I had witnessed in every direction of healthcare. I was like, I just didn't feel like it was ever going to end. Is the corruption ever going to end? Am I ever going to actually have like a balanced, rhythmic flow of life? Or is it always going to be hustle, bustle, chaos? Is it always going to be me fighting some battle that's bigger than me? And I kept fighting. And then it seemed like I was rallying some people at the company because I wasn't the only one who knew what was going on or saw what was going on. I talked to so many people and it was all coming together, and I thought I was going to rally everyone together and we were going to make a beautiful change and it was going to be this beautiful thing. Did not happen. It turned out awful. In hindsight, I think what I kind of realized is people, especially the owners, the CEOs, I don't think people like when you're a better leader than them. That was something that was worded to me. I did not necessarily think or feel that I was being a better leader than them. I thought I was doing my part to collaborate with the team. And I was sharing my thoughts and my ideas, and other people were afraid to say something where I'm not afraid, I don't care. And people were like, well, I didn't want to lose my job. Obviously, I don't care because I said it and I lost my job. Part of it was because I was like, listen, if you're not going to take what I say seriously, if you're not going to listen to me, if you're not going to value me, then I quit. And they're like, fine, so fuck you, see you later. And that's a summary. They did not say fuck you. In so many words they did. And then I went on unemployment. From there, I tried getting an OT career here and there. I went back, there was a nursing home job. Pretty much got accepted into. But I was just still in this high, because it takes LSD and all of those things a while to settle in your system. So even though this was a month after all of that, I still was like, nope, I have a good I was manifesting, right? I was like, I have a good opportunity for my business and I'm not going to focus here, even though that would have been a really nice part-time job that probably could have saved me a lot of pain. And that's probably not really a regret, but maybe a mistake. But I was like, well, I'm on unemployment and things were picking up with my business, in a really positive way. So I was like, I don't need this distraction. I don't need this safety net. My husband wanted the safety net, but I was okay without it, I thought. Then, and then I got canceled online a couple times. And that really tanked everything, which is where I was like, well, maybe I should have accepted that safety net just because, but who would have thought that that would have happened? All because people's poor media literacy, lack of comprehension, inability to hear what I was saying. They fixated on how I said it. I'm not saying that I said it in the best. I've talked about that in a few other of my podcasts. But there was so many details to the story that were twisted and misconstrued, and it just became a clusterfuck. And I firmly believe it was completely unfair entirely. There is a part of me that feels like it was part of a hex or a curse or something casted against me on top of this Pisces Saturn energy of adversarial energy for me to persevere and overcome, which I did. I think I did pretty good considering. Not perfect. Definitely look back, would handle it better. Lessons learned for the future, right? But then I was like, I'm not going back to OT. I'm not going back to OT. Everyone kept fucking telling me to go back to OT because it was stable and I made good money. What the fuck was I doing? Why did I have to piss off care first? Because that was the most money I could make in my career with my degree. I mean, I could have made a little bit more money if I kept like advancing and getting other certifications and other things. But the money I was making as a coda, almost unheard of, in a lot of different ways. I negotiated it because I'm worth more than that. But to prove myself to them, like, hey, let me start out here and you can just, keep paying me later. Which a lot of people, they were in that same mindset, which is why when I spoke out and started the meeting, I stood up alone. All the people that I thought was going to stand up with me didn't. I don't know how many people defended me. I know that, after I left, a couple weeks, couple months later, a few other people eventually left, but there wasn't, the support that I feel I should have been there. I think it could have gone completely different if others stood up with me. I don't think I would have got fired. I think we could have implemented a lot of change. There would have been the numbers, or Care First would have had to fire at least 10 people, which at that time is not their entire staff, but a good portion of their staff. So it just kind of became this thing, and I really struggled emotionally and philosophically, and I had to stick to my guns, and everyone's telling me I was fucking crazy, and I suffered a lot. We lost our house, lost my husband's truck. I mean, like, repoed, like, because I couldn't give it up, because I was determined to prove that I was right. I still think I was right, but to me, proving that I was right would result in money to maintain my life. And I realized, like, that house wasn't meant to be ours. That truck was bought on faulty foundation. There was a lot of roots we were trying to plant, and it wasn't our soil to plant it in, and so therefore it would never thrive. But I was determined to make it thrive. I was determined to heal the earth and make the soil nutritious enough for us to thrive there. And I was willing to do a lot for it. And then, so after all of that, I went back to OT for a home care job. Had 3 like psychotic breaks. I swear to God, I wasn't admitted or anything, but to Todd, who got one of the voice notes, I'm sure he would attest to it being very unhinged. Angry, screaming, crying, like you hear me hitting things, that, like, I'm having a full-blown tantrum that I don't think I've had since I was a toddler. I was releasing so much anger about, we're losing the house, I'm gonna lose the truck, I might lose my car, and all because of my principles, my morals, and all of these convictions that I have that I cannot admit defeat against, and now I'm trapped, I'm thrown back in jail, this OT career, apparently it's the only fucking way I can make money, because I was getting denied receptionist jobs. Like, I was trying to find other jobs. The only thing I didn't do was go get a waitress job or a job at a fast food restaurant. Not that that's above me, but I couldn't deal with it. I did it to get through college. I couldn't do it again. And all these other things, like I tried retail, I tried going back to all of these different things just to have some money coming in, just to have some fucking relief financially. It was so devastating. And then everything's going wrong with that, like, home care career. They loved me. Everyone loved me. But then there's all these COVID regulations and all the, like, they're like, oh, we're going to do this and this, compliance this and inspection that. And I was like, this is fucking madness. this is madness. I'm not fucking doing it. I'm not getting this vaccine. And that was another thing. I refused to get the vaccine, so I didn't qualify for a lot of jobs. And it just seemed like every fucking where I was, it was just like, nope, 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 nope. And I firmly believe that's alignment, but I was struggling. My husband, who's afraid, he's just scared out of his mind, rightfully so, because he's struggling with the same things. And so then there's a lot of projection on both of our ends. Like we went to war with each other because we're mirroring the same thing with each other. And then it's like, well, are you worthless or are you worthless? Are we both worthless? Is it us? Are we not good together? Or like, it was very intense. I quit after I barely got through my training. I was there because it took a fucking month for me to get through training for a home care job, and I just couldn't believe it. So I quit that job, and my dad came to visit. That's when we got the notice about the house. We had 6 months to vacate the house or come up with a deal. We went through that whole process. But I couldn't find a job for the life of me. I tried putting my candles in stores. I was at shops doing readings. I was on the grounds promoting myself. And then was haunted by this OT career. And I was like, listen, I appreciate everything that it taught me. It taught me a lot with psychology, sociology, philosophy, interpersonal communication, interpersonal relationship building. I appreciate the skills that I learned from that experience. When I say it was never mine, I mean that I do feel like I could have learned those same skills in a different way because I have that ambition for myself. These are things that I naturally have an interest in that I research on my own anyway. Things that I was already researching before I decided to go into OT. I just thought it was the academic and proper approach. I thought people would take me seriously, which they don't. Out of all disciplines, OT is one of the, especially in therapy, it is taken seriously the least. Physical therapists, by the way, fuck all of you. So most of you have the worst attitude in the world when it comes to occupational therapy. Speech therapy, they're okay. It depends on the situation, but speech therapists were a lot more chill than physical therapists. Physical therapists, generally speaking, I know some really great ones, but most of you can get fucked, especially with your hoity-toity, holier-than-thou attitude about being the only therapy that fucking matters. And your association that convinces doctors to only prescribe PT and not OT and limits the boundaries of OT, you can get fucked too. I hate everybody in this entire fucking healthcare system. I will yell and bitch about every discipline. I swear to God I will. Just give me give me a mic, give me time. But that is for another day. And it would be hours, it would be days. It would be a series of podcasts for me breaking down each discipline and why they all fucking suck. On a personal level and on a like healing, collective, career, societal level. Everything fucking sucks here in America. In this way. Like it's really poor systems that don't really help anybody. It's an illusion. It's all an illusion of health and wellness and support and healing. Hate it. Can't stand it. And so anyway, after all of that, it wasn't until March I finally got a job at a nursing home, and I got a job at a pediatric clinic that denied me 3 times. I finally got into them, and they were like, well, why do you keep applying here? And I was like, why do you keep having job openings? Whatever. They didn't like again, it was because I questioned one of the lead OTs. I would, part of the interview process, it's like a 3-step interview process, and part of it is that you do like an observation and you kind of implement stuff. Well, I did home care. So this was a clinic with all kinds of equipment. So I wasn't used to using all this equipment. So I'm doing things how I creatively would as if I don't have any equipment at all, because that's what you do in home care. And she got upset with me because she was like, oh, well, we like to encourage the kids to use the equipment. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, this was my approach. And I can't remember how I said it or worded it. It may have came off snarky. I didn't mean it to, but I was just like explaining myself like, oh yeah, no, like I've been in home care and I'm not used to having all this equipment. So my perspective was teaching the child how to do this if they didn't have a step stool. She was trying to get on a swing. This little girl, she was too short and weak. She couldn't pull herself up on the swing, and she was too like. So it was a whole thing. And they're like, "Well, get her. She can problem solve. Get a step stool. Is that important to do? Yeah." There was nothing wrong with that intervention approach. I was just like, "Oh, that's how you guys want it done here. I'm sorry." My thinking was, well, if she's at a park and she doesn't have access to a step stool, what is the best way for her to do this? Well, the best way for her to do it is for me to do like a light guard and have her pull herself up until her muscles give out, and then me give the rest of the support, which ties into my powerlifting career and personal training ventures of things that I've done. So I'm thinking about it in a strength conditioning perspective, not so much a problem solving, executive functioning perspective. And I was just trying to explain myself like, oh, okay. Apparently got fucking mad about that, and that was the reason why they refused to hire me for over a year. Hate everything about that, but I'm there, and then I'm working at the clinic. I'm trying to get my money back. I have to pay my father-in-law because he gave me money so I didn't lose my car. $5,000 for me to fucking save my car because it was so behind on everything and blah, blah, blah. So I have to pay him back on top of trying to pay bills, on top of us trying to find a new place to live. And then we're looking at moving, and it's chaos. And then I'm at this nursing home, and talk about they didn't fire me because they were desperate. But I had never been written up. Well, I can't say that. I had been written up when I worked at Justice. It's a little girl store. I don't know if it exists. I believe it used to be limited to, and then it became Justice. But anyway, it's a little girl store. I worked there in high school. I think I got a verbal warning for just being silly. It was slow, and we were sitting in a chair, and we had a laser pointer, and we were messing with people because the mall was dead. Apparently we got told on, and it's inappropriate. So I know my manager Taylor and I, or assistant manager, whatever she was, supervisor, I'm pretty sure she got written up, and then I just got a verbal. But that was the only other time I got in trouble at work. Like I was a problem child. I was a problem child because I said things, but you couldn't really fire me over it because what I was saying was it was full of integrity, it was honest, and it was pure of heart. Like it was respectful, but it just like wasn't how people wanted things done. So it upset people, but it wasn't grounds to get fired over, blah blah, or even written up over. They just didn't like what I had to say. So anyway, this company I actually got written up for because of my attendance, because I'm still refusing to give up on my business. And I'm still trying to implement all of these things. And then on top of, again, more just mental depression. Like, dude, I cannot go into this fucking place. I cannot be at this place. Like, again, I'm hiding in the bathroom and crying and hyperventilating and like all of these fucking things just to get through the fucking day. Or you could just let me stay home and let me process what I need to process and carry on, and just everything about it. And then I was having power struggles with fucking Julie, the group scheduler, and all of this stuff. And I was just like, why are people going out of their way to make everything more complicated? It doesn't have to be this way. And it's like, well, you know, corporate wants, I'm like, tell corporates, go fuck themselves. Well, my manager, who was a very lovely lady, Jo, is a wonderful person, but she's like, listen, don't shoot the messenger. If she complains to corporate, they're just going to fire her and put someone in there who's going to do what they want. I understood that. But I also feel like if you work your way up to being in a manager position, there is a way for you to defend your staff and stick up to corporate without getting fired. But it was just like, okay, so therapy's productivity is low because fucking nursing isn't doing their fucking job because the CNAs are so goddamn lazy. And not all of them are lazy. Patients are difficult. Patients don't want to get up. It's like, why you at a rehab facility? Oh, well, why did you admit a 90-year-old lady and expect her to go through intensive therapy? And it's like, okay, we either need to accept that this is not an inpatient rehab with intensive therapy, and it is light therapy and more of like a slower pace, and then your therapists don't need to be 94% productive, or you need to allow us to have a wider scope of practice for what we're billing for. Like there's so much, so fucking much. Anyway, got in trouble there. Moved to Nashville. Then I started at Talk to Me, which is my last final OT career, and it makes sense because my boss is a Pisces, so love that. And that was that is a whole other fucking story of corruption and poor business practices. And again, people getting into healthcare just because they see dollar signs in a virtuous way. Because, like, look at me, I'm in a healthcare business and I make bukus of money. It's disgusting. Everything about it is disgusting. Like, yes, I want to help people, and yes, I want to make bukus of money. I don't think that that is something that, I think that's something that everybody wants. I don't think that's separate from humanity. Um, and so I don't judge my boss for wanting to help people and make good money, but there's such a disingenuous aspect to it all, and people have these facades and personas, and this one foot in, one foot out. Like, they want to evolve, but then they are still holding on to tradition. And I get that. That's can be a strong Capricorn like essence. And it is a balance of the scale. Sometimes to be centered, you have to have one foot in and one foot out. Like, I can understand that. But it's people who, they take on like the Medicaid clients, they take on like the state clients, they take on all of these people. Like Care First took on traumatic brain injury clients. Most of the clients were homeless people or people with really rough backgrounds. And so they get the insurance money. That's what it is. It's not actually about helping people. It's about getting the most amount of insurance money that you can from impoverished people. And I don't, like, I believe that these people deserve services. I don't believe that companies should be able to exploit the poor. Like, because that's what it is. You're not giving them quality service. You're giving them kind of half-ass service for a variety of reasons. Because, again, patients are also fucked up. Like, I have a lot of criticism about the business and the corporations and the clinics and all the above in healthcare. People, patients, are the other side of the problem, and they also make it really fucking difficult, and they really fucking suck. So, everyone is the problem, and you're just trying to make it the best that you can, and you're juggling all these things. So I have a lot of empathy. I have a lot of empathy for business owners, and therapists, and patients. Everyone's just trying to do the best they can with what they have, but the truth is the entire system, the entire structure sucks. The foundation of the entire healthcare system needs to fall and be rebuilt because it's fucking garbage every which way you look at it, unless you're rich. Unless you're rich and can pay a really high-end private practice of some kind for whatever it is that you need, you're not going to get what you want. Because here's the thing, people who are at a high level, so high-level private practices, set their limited hours where they have work-life balance. They get paid enough money per hour from these rich clients. So they are living the life where poor people are that I can only afford this amount. So it's a cheap service and and no one can have what they want. So you have to work more to earn more to afford what you need. And it just becomes a fucking problem, and it's disgusting. And it's not necessarily an argument for universal health care, because there's a lot of problems that go into universal health care. I've heard from from my Canadian friends, my European friends, like, there's no reason why you need to be on a wait list for 3 years for a knee replacement surgery. However, you also don't need to spend all of this fucking money on a knee replacement surgery in America. So in America, you get it immediately, but it costs a lot. In universal healthcare countries, it doesn't cost you anything except your taxes, but you're on a wait list forever. So then you get worse before you get better, because your knee might have needed to be replaced and it could have been a minor surgery, but then you walk on it for 3 years on your wait list and it deteriorates even more. It's a shit show. And then in other countries, they don't even have fucking healthcare at all. And so everything sucks, is my conclusion to that. So anyway, I was just frustrated with Talk to Me. I was frustrated with every fucking career in OT I've ever had. Been very angry about everything that I've seen. And I've tried my best to fix it and heal it in every way I can. But when it came to Talk to Me, there was a point where I was just like, I started releasing my books, and I had Todd come bring me all my candle stuff from Michigan, and I was like, I'm gonna do what I can here, but I had to really detach. Because I thought Thought I was working for a spiritual owner. Angie's a spiritual person, a wannabe. She's a fucking wannabe, but whatever. And I thought it was going to go a completely different direction. Again, still holding on to that hope or that belief that there was a place for me in occupational therapy, that there was a place for me in healthcare. And there is. There's a place for me to use occupational therapy philosophy, and there's a place for me to be a healer. But it's not in these societally conventional ways. Not for this Aquarius. Absolutely fucking not. So all of that led me to just really focusing on my business, which pissed Angie off even more because she's someone. So the spiritual person that she is she collects other spiritual people to siphon off of to pour into her business. She's a predator. She's fucking gross. Business owner that I have met in OT is gross. One of the best business owners I have ever met is Christina Calder. I'll give her full name. She ran United Kingdom. That was one of my retail jobs that I had, and she really inspired me on how I would want to be as a leader, as a boss, as a business owner. She wasn't perfect. I don't think anyone is. I'm definitely not. I will fuck up, have fucked up, and all of the above, but she was the best example that I had and have continued to have. I've had many examples after her, and she's still one of the best examples I could relate to. And my boss, Justice, my manager, he was wonderful. He was like what Joe should have been, where he kept corporate at bay, but then he protected us. But I really liked how he balanced everything out. Both, by the way, Justice and Christina are Virgos. Love that. That's a fun connection, but perfect examples. Everyone else, they not supposed to be a fucking business owner. I'll tell you what. Whatever. Or if they were supposed to be in business or like a CEO of some kind, an owner of some kind, they needed to direct it in a different field. They were exploiting the field. They were there's all of these different things. Something was in misalignment. All right. And so that's kind of how I've learned reflect and learn on everything, and who I wanted to be. I learned who I didn't want to be, and I learned who I wanted to be through the last 10 years, from my senior year of high school to now, which led me to, again, focusing on my business. Angie being upset. I did a reading for her. She hated it because I told her things she didn't want to hear, and she just couldn't accept the criticism that I gave her as an employee, which then, here's the thing, I did not take the opportunity to give her a reading just to solidify my personal criticism. The reading just happened to confirm my criticism. And I mean that as genuinely as I possibly can. I would never want to have a reputation or betray someone like that. I sent her an email after working for her for 2 months, being like, dude, can't survive off of $150 to $300 a week when I'm working. What the fuck is this? Because we didn't get paid until insurance paid her, and then they had an awful fucking billing system. But Angie could go on all these vacations, and she had this lovely house in Gallatin, and it's just all of this fucking stuff that doesn't make any sense. You're not a good leader because the people who are who are working on your ship, who are keeping you afloat, you are exploiting them. They're expendable. You don't care. And I hate that attitude that employees are expendable, because they're fucking not. You want to invest in your people. People weren't investing in me, and I got burned out with it. So then I quit investing in them. I was upset with Angie. I sent my email to her. I heard her out. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I completed my contract. And then once my contract was over, because in what I signed, it was for at least there's something about 6 months. I can't remember all the details of my contract, but I didn't start doing markets and events and prioritizing my business until after I was there for 6 months, and I gave it a real good shot. I tried talking to her, but I learned one of my other jobs is to just detach, right? Which is what my husband begged me to do. He's like, don't fight it. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Just detach. Keep your head down. Get the money, which is what I did for the most part until I started then, because they told me to do markets. So then Angie and Dana told me to do markets. And so I started doing markets, and Angie has this business policy that you can take time off whenever you want. And I think she cared that I was taking time off whenever I wanted, for not just for myself, but to leave her business. She was fine with people taking time off whenever they wanted, as long as they were coming back to benefit her. And she wanted to give people that illusion of security within her presence. But as soon as you started to want something different for yourself or to not be a part of benefiting her, then she would have an attitude. And it was just this weird manipulation and control that was just fucking gross, where it was just like, I don't know, evil mommy shit. It definitely triggered me in like my mother wound and like narcissistic wound that I've like, there was a lot of bad juju that came from her, and she's this love and lighter, and that just like added to everything. It just blew up. So we're fine. Like, there was a lot of crazy spiritual warfare, which I had never really dealt with directly in business before. I'm sure there was like subtleties of it in my other careers, but this was someone I knew to be a spiritual person. This was someone I was deeply open about my spiritual practices with, and not that we agreed, but we were in the same spectrum. Where my other bosses, people knew things about me, but they didn't fully know the extent of it, or they had different beliefs. There's still a level of separation, even though I've always been the devil woman. Even back in middle school, people have asked me if I was a Satanist and like a devil worshiper and all this fucking stuff. So that was not anything new for people to just be uncomfortable with like the goth girl. But this was the first time I had like direct spiritual competition in a work environment, like a direct work environment. I had some of that with Rebecca when I was writing with her magazine thing, and also just I was her student. I was paying her to do these readings for me, and there was a weird competition. Same with Angie. It's like these women who are in a hierarchy position above you, they compete with you in weird ways. I'm like, I'm not trying to be Rebecca. I'm not trying to be Angie. I'm not trying to be the queen bee of your empire. I'm trying to be a queen of my own empire, and y'all can fuck off. Like, I don't know why you're upset with what you've helped me with or taught me. That is fucking weird. It was just, everything about it was weird. And so I knew I needed to leave, and I prepared myself to leave. But it was also another one of those like quitting and getting fired at the same time. The anticipation of her, she was looking for a way to get me out. And it was she was either trying to bend my knee to surrender to her and just give her what she wanted, which was my magic and my essence, and pouring into her business and not pouring into my business and my career. She wanted me to pour into her career and her environment, and not, again, put my needs on the back burner for her. And I wasn't doing that. And that was kind of, through all of that, I just realized one of my biggest problems is that people can't control me. People can't change me. People can't waver me. Because even when they think that they do, they still don't, because I might be behind bars, but I'm still talking my shit. Okay? And that reminds me what my father figure, Rob, told me. Is because as I voiced out all of these stories to him and all the above, he called me Wallace, and he goes, because even when he was bound and about to be beheaded, the last thing he yelled to the world was freedom. And he goes, and that is you. You're planting seeds even on your deathbed. Like, you don't surrender even when they have you. And so through this whole journey of OT, I have realized that I'm unstoppable, and I do have a strong spiritual, philosophical, mental, emotional foundation underneath me. And I can thrive and be successful. I can heal and create and do what I want to do. I don't have to put my needs on the back burner. My needs can be in the forefront of my life. Not other people's lives, my life. And then when it comes to other people's lives, it's that collaboration. And then finding people who collaborate in alignment. Angie and I could not collaborate in alignment regardless of how much I tried. And that was how my entire OT career went, because no matter how much I tried to align it, it's just like two parallel lines will never intersect, right? They'll just keep going for eternity. And so if I'm wanting to build a bridge, I'm wanting like an arc, which is kind of what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting the parallel to keep going this way. I was expecting the bridge. And then that bridge was broken. So that is my OT career. And my license here in Tennessee is about to be renewed. It has to be renewed, I think, in January or something. And I don't even want to renew it. I set that boundary. I said, well, as soon as I leave, talk to me. Then I'm not going to do an OT career anymore. I'll find something else. And I've only been applying to jobs outside of OT. There's a couple OT jobs that I applied to that faded away. And then I started trying to do like a private practice. So do healing in my own way, incorporate my OT career with private clients, but doing more like a mentorship program, like a spiritual healing program, but incorporating my OT philosophies. And that blew up in my face. So I quit on the 30th of October, all of November. That was what I was working towards, and it blew up so badly that that was kind of like the clear message of the old ways of doing things will no longer serve you. Again, the message that I told Angie, a message for me to take for myself, and how we mirrored each other, and where I've been a hypocrite in the process, but also why there was that friction, that adversarial energy, that dance between us, and what that war, with that destruction, created space for like a rebirth. And so it's not incorporating it is using my OT career and the philosophies in my writing and my creative projects, that creativity and that foundational support of my message and my intention. But not so much direct individual one-on-one client building. And I'm going to talk more about that in my next podcast. But this is just the conclusion of my OT career and putting that ending to rest. And I say hopefully, I really don't know where my life is going or where it's headed. I am taking it day by day, moment by moment, the stepping stones in the path to present itself before me, and kind of keeping my eye on the prize in that big vision, no longer planning for those stepping stones, which OT was a huge stepping stone that I think I keep kind of jumping back to. So if there is a solid cliff and then there's stepping stones to the stairway to heaven, right? Which heaven is my dreamiest vision of myself. OT is here, it's solid. I've been able to stand on it. The other stepping stones, they're floating stones, they fall, right? So it's constantly, I jump to the next stepping stone, it falls beneath me because I don't need stepping stones. I can fly. I don't just flying. So then I just jump back to the safety of the OT because it's secure. Again, that was that whole paradigm. That was that whole conditional belief, is that this is the only way that I can be safe. And that's not true. I am perfectly safe to be an artist, to be a writer, to be creative, to be a candle maker, to be a witch, to be an oracle, to be whatever it is that I want to be. I am safe to be that. I just have to do it, and also be willing to suffer, because that's part of Saturn. What do you want, and how bad do you want it? And is what you want what you actually want? And that is another huge lesson of Saturn. And it's balancing out your birth chart, because like certain parts of you might want certain things, but you have to realize like what it's rooted in. So I had to really clear out the mud and get a crystal clear intention and truth and understanding of what it is that I want, without all the noise, without all the ripples of everyone else in my quantum field, right? In my water. So letting all the dust settle, letting everything settle to the bottom after it's been ruffled to the top, and now that it's all settled, what is it that I actually want, and what did I clear out from my abyss? And OT is one of them. OT I don't think is going to ever be a part of me ever again. And I don't think individual clients are going to be part of me ever again. I think I'm shifting into a more collective approach of being, which I think is kind of what I've struggled with. Because when I have engaged with the public, it hasn't always gone the best. I'm great and I'm charming with small groups. Big groups, it's real easy for the mob to turn on you. And so I'm kind of learning how to tolerate bigger groups of people. And part of that is by letting individual practices go as far as career is concerned, right? And pouring that individual energy into my more deeply personal relationships, my chosen family and my friends and all of those things, and pouring that individual love into myself, and then allowing that overflow to um, nurture the collective in a nutshell. Instead of pouring from my cup into other people's cups, it's the overflow of my cup into the earth and letting it spread that way. If that metaphor makes any sense. But yeah, that's just, that's where I've been, and that's kind of where I'll be headed. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of crazy to think about my OT career and everything that I've been through in my 20s and putting it to rest and saying goodbye. Fucking once and for all. I wanted to say goodbye to this for so long. And I've talked about this multiple times. I don't know why it's so hard to let go of something that you know is not good for you and something that you know you don't want. I don't know why it's easy to get stuck in traps. Um, and sometimes I feel like some of that is outside of your control. And sometimes you are just trapped because you're trapped. And sometimes sitting and doing nothing is the best thing that you can do to give yourself time to accurately problem solve how to get out of it. That's also like the hangman, right? Like that surrender. That's also Pisces and Saturn energy, which I really struggle with. I like taking action. I not to say I like controlling things, but I like directing things. I'm a leader. I like wielding that. I like leading. And so to just be sitting in a boat and being taken somewhere down a chaotic river is not easy for me. But worth it. The more I've learned to surrender, the more I've learned to let go, the better things have been for me, and it's aligned me into a more creative sense of self where I allow ideas and projects to flow to me instead of trying to forcibly create them. So yeah, so I'll talk more about that in my next podcast. I'll talk about the individualism, the changes, and kind of how my OT weird healing private practice thing blew up in my face. But until then, take care, everybody, and thanks for bringing some moon juice. I'll talk to you later. Cozy.